Putin is the ultimate expression of irresponsibility from one bloated bureaucracy. We spoke with Professor Dr. Hildegard Keller, a novelist, screenwriter, literary critic, and literary theorist who has lectured at sad events for the past decade. Keller's novel Kakvama se Inimo was recently presented at the Festival of World Literature in Zagreb. One of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, Hannah Arendt has been the subject of numerous informative books and a handful of engaging biographies. Njezina su glavna jela prevedina na hrvatski jezik, u zkmuj nedavno igrao ikman u Jeruzalemu, a neki se sadatelji sigurno shikaju igranog filma vida aktiva Margarethi von Trada, u kojem je Arendt, koju je shajno utjalavila Barbara Sukowa, prikazana kao temperamentna intelektualka koja voli diskutirati. Sesto utanula u misli I uvijek s sigaritam u Rusi. Arendt's Kakvama se Inimo is a novel that, however, is presented from an opposing viewpoint. Through conversations with family and friends, as well as through the author's writings and poetry, we get to know her from a distance and learn about her upbringing and the events that led to her 20th birthday celebration. The story begins in the spring of 1975 in the town of Tegna, in the city of Tyson. However, the narrative is not linear but rather split into two parts, which adds dynamism. Arendt draws inspiration for his life's most meaningful events and people from the world of philosophy. There are acceptable boundaries between fact and fiction. We spoke with the author, Professor Emerita Hildegard Keller, about the novel. Keller is a novelist, screenwriter, literary critic, and literary theorist who has taught in the United States and Switzerland. Express, what prompted you to write a novel about Hannah Arendt? Have your personal feelings about her changed? We were aided by the Shedengene American Drave. We've both been lecturing at American universities for quite some time now, Hannah Arendt since the early 1960s in Chicago, and myself from 2008 until 2017 at the University of Bloomington, in the state of Indiana. Both of us are natives of the same small town, so we share a common cultural background. Towards the end of my stay in SAD, I became particularly close with a group of Nijemsi who were born in the middle of the year. My family has also been affected by Tom's lies. They emigrated to the United States some time ago. The elderly Bloomington residents recently received packages from the United States. The majority of these people are Europeans who immigrated to the United States as slaves. To say that urinating in their toilets made me feel uncomfortable would be an understatement. I figured out the many ways in which the unforgiving hands of time can shape or break a person's existence. I have never experienced anything like this in Croatia. I was the film's producer when Whatever Comes Next, about an Austrian girl living in Bloomington, premiered at American film festivals, in SAD theaters across Europe, and on Austrian television. Anne-Marie was born in Belarus in 1926 under the name Ingeborg Bachmann and achieved worldwide fame and fortune. Anne-Marie moved to New York City when she was 12 years old and became a naturalized American citizen. She was widely regarded as intelligent, much like Hannah Arendt. The research for this novel was taken directly from my own life, which was novel for me because up until that point the characters in any of my stories, radio dramas, films, or performances had all been middle-aged or older people. Hannah Arendt has been largely absent from the public eye, but after I gave her the lead role in my novel, I found myself immersed in her world in a profound and unexpected way. You guys did a lot of research for this book. When was that? Have you stumbled upon any unexpected findings in your research thus far? It is extremely beneficial that Hannah Arendt's papers have been digitized and made available online after she donated her estate to the Croatian National Library. I started the investigation in 2015 in Sadu, after the end of the movie Whatever Comes Next, What Did I Do Wrong? Many revelations have occurred. Primarily, I drew inspiration from Hannah Arendt's unpublished memoir and the unheralded work of her eponymous muse, both of which were previously unknown to the general public but proved to be invaluable sources of information for my novel. The women who have shaped their own uniquely poetic mindset and humaneness through a wealth of overseas experience have become pivotal figures in my life as a whole. That trip with Hannah Arendt was incredibly formative for me. I am confident that now, thanks to Nadije Inovi's leadership, it will become a reality for all Croatian citizens. Express. Many personal reflections and biographical details were woven into the novel. In order to determine whether or not Dr. Cox is a real person, the detective would have to spend hours poring over online records. Can you tell us more about the structure of the novel and the arbitrary line between fiction and nonfiction? Kakvama se Inimo is a novel in which we will experience some encounters with our main character in a completely new way. Even for the most astute readers, distinguishing fact from fiction in the works of Hannah Arendt can be a challenge. No, dear, we need not behave as though we are in a chemistry lab. Using the internet too much is harmful because it will launch us out of the Roman world, where we need to be grounded so that we can learn and grow. Jelena is far superior to standard infantry weaponry. We are grateful to Hannah Arendt for leaving us her life's work, but she failed to impress us as a person through her actions, appearance, and naive view of the world. As a novelist, I tried my best to achieve this through creativity and compassion. This information was crucial to me from the start of my life. Like good wine, the best place to enjoy it is on the hills of Istra, from which you can see the sea. This is a theory shared by the philosopher Hannah Arendt's disciples. Nisu nastala samo unjezinoge glave, eni is viru is sistog intellecta nego is tajila I duze. A posban picat deju im jazina circanist, jezin perkos I otpor te dojai precisn antin zie povagest kovjakanstva. It could be said that Arendt spent her entire life investigating the ways in which humans develop, both positively and negatively. Express. In the novel Arendt, you present her not just as an intellectual sclone full of polemics and without any dlake on the language, but also as a brilliant knight in supergu, about whose character we will learn much from our relationships with friends and family and their writings, and before anything else, from our own conversations. We will meet her in one exciting setting as a curious young woman interested in everything. I was wondering if you could tell us anything about his relationship with Ingeborg Bachmann. In a few short paragraphs, I will describe the friendship that developed between Hannah Arendt and Ingeborg Bachmann before Arendt's public reading of Bachmann's book in Manhattan. I'd like to think of the Poles from that mystery and some other names as friends. Many people are writing about them now, but neither of them are real people, rather, they are icons of their own making. Nika is the ultimate luxuriant coiffure that humankind wears. As Arendt and Bachmann learned firsthand, a disagreement over facts can happen anywhere. Roman is a quiet place where lovers can get intimate or even have an affair. This is an ideal, dreamlike setting for a single brunch. Just before eating, two women discuss everything that interests them: men, the need for security in densely populated cities; poetry, the poshness of society in Nazi Germany and Austria; Adolf Eichmann, and his methods of creation. That which you remember most vividly in my words represents me as both author and imitator. The very act of writing this novel has brought me closer to the main character, closer to his or her heart and eyes, so that I may share in their experience of life and death. In this book, the reader travels the world with a character who is utterly captivating. If we pray and work hard, we can learn even more about this world. There was a lot she didn't know about that could affect her life. Tg Kvrkut, aki Sverin, Kojam se kao turistika pozni godina radovala utikinu, are mentioned in the book, and types appear even in the boji of these shamanistic prizarima from the sea. The best thing ever is the bojka from Jazina Pera that I found and turned into a novel. Javajika Kris na put keiko by pronasla pozebnu gusku, sisris ses many mudrim ivotinjima, I na krajin alatsi sriku. This story set in Manhattan contains some elements of contemporary fairy tales written in the style of the Brothers Grimm, as well as Malag Prinka, written by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I think it's great for kids and adults who are curious about the world and want to learn more about it. Hannah Arendt is a lot of Itala, before all the other Njimek and English Jesnike, classics, and Steregrkepov. Sigil has included quotations from her deepest poems. But we had no idea that she also wrote poetry. We hope to find some of her poems in your novel. Arendt claims that poetry is the most intimate form of expression because of this claim appearing on a single page. As for the name of the Roman god, it is a direct lift from one of his poems. How did you as a literary critic rate the quality of Njezine poetry? What role did lyrica play in her life? When and why was it a priority to write those poems? As the novel's author, I'd rather not have my characters' plot points rewritten than have them treated with disrespect. Put a price on them and you'll know exactly what happened on the bus and how much it cost. It's common knowledge that Arendt liked hanging out with writers, and even worked with some of them.